Gentlemen, it's Brad and SuperCoach Pro. Today we're doing a look at last season's players and players I am hot to start in 2025. Now, the team pick is probably like a week away or so. You'd think it's normally just before Christmas or around then anyway. And then if you're already like a gold subscriber, you can play around the picker. If you're not a SuperCoach Plus gold subscriber, it's normally like late January or something like that when it's released. So, look, I'll probably obviously do the gold sub just so I can get the picker out as early as possible. And I'll probably do it one of the first, hopefully. That way there's no influence on other people's opinions on who I feel like I should start personally. Because sometimes we get to this start of the season and team pickers come out and a lot of teams are very similar for various reasons. But I think this year you got to be a little bit different and take some pods because everybody has the same forward line every year, etc. But I think you just got to take more risks than not this season. So, because it's just getting harder every year because everyone's getting better because all the content has been released as well. So, Bontempelli starting from the top, total points was the highest scoring in total points last year, more than any other player by actually a fair bit there, obviously. And by the end of it, he was in 60% of sides. So huge numbers from Bont, having good preseason again, he is. So, yeah, it's probably one that you could start. I'm a little bit 50-50. He's going to be so expensive this season. And he's, getting to the late 20s, almost 30 now. So Bont, for me, I'm not too sure if I want to start him or just that next generation, the Butters, the Rosies, the Sarongs, the Dacosses. Do we just go for the next gen over the the guys that are sort of eventually going to hit their wall where they start declining. And usually that's around sort of 29 to 31 roughly, depending on position, of course. But and then there's a few that I'm definitely going to start, I feel anyway. I say definitely, but I'm 90% certain players like Butters and Cherry are going to start on the side. Cherry's very expensive, so I wouldn't mind going a different route, like maybe perhaps Gorn again. Just start going. But I'm certainly got one takeaway is this season is not to base all your picks heavily on round zero like we sort of did last year, persuaded by one game. Really sort of stuffed up a lot of teams, 5-6 core players that we probably shouldn't have went for, particularly early on, and also those round 2-3 buys. Players we probably shouldn't be picking too many of those, maybe one or two premiums in those early buys, but you certainly don't want to deck them out with 3 or 4 because you leak points very early on. So how to pick a side. And generally, you probably want 2 to 3 primos down back, probably around 3, I'd say, depending on the rookies given. But I feel like I want to go a little bit more heavy in the midfield this year, maybe 5 deep, because of the money we'll save in the forward line. I think the forward lines will be very similar this year. The starting 6 will look all the same, I feel like your Caleb Daniels, your Bailey Smiths, your Horn Francis's, players like that. Then there'll be like a next tier, such as your Parkers, if you want to take a punt. He's a little bit older now, of course, but he's gone to the Roos. And there's obviously, your Philip, your next gen, which I do like to talk about a fair bit because they're more breakout on top of a breakout candidate already. So you always want to pick out that breakout that's going to put 20 points more on than what they did last season. And it means you've saved yourself a lot of coin. You started with the points and you've made the money. And that's where you get your really good head starts from. Generally, if you get a good start to the season for the first 4 or 6 weeks, you don't use too many trades, you generally got a pretty good lead on the others that are trying to fix their teams early on, which I've had to do in seasons past. I've had a weird 3 years, really. Sort of hot and cold in patches and whatnot. I've always been pretty strong at trading, I feel. It's just been my starting squads. We've been a little bit too, not too sure if it's like too common or it's just not enough risk or maybe both. So a few things to think about there. Day cost is probably a definite start at the price. You'd think he ended on 556. So the price is hopefully around the mark as well. With Ryan, I'm probably not as hot to start, but we do know St Kilda and Fremantle have good fixtures in terms of the buys as well. So something to think about. Sarong is probably on my radar as well. Merritt, not so much. Neil, not so much. Flanders, not too sure. I think he's a bit on the expensive side. If I was to have a look at it line by line, I'll filter it. You guys are probably going to think this is the 25 one, but it's not yet. So it's a little bit of a catfish, perhaps. Just sort of by average. But Sheasel, Dacos. I think Dacos will be mid. I'm not sure if he'll be a defender anymore in Supercoach. I'll have to research that. Sinclair, I'm probably looking at this season, given the buy that they've got. So Sheasel, Sinclair, and there's a Freo player, Jordan Clark, probably over Luke Ryan, I think, for me. At this early stage, I'm not going to take injury risk players like Yo this year, or hammy players like Young. He was very hot and cold and very annoying. Nas might be an interesting one, given the St Kilda's buys throughout the season. It's very friendly buys. And then maybe you take a punt on some of these other ones a little bit cheaper. Not sure about Rioli. For me, I don't think so. He's done an MCL injury, so going to miss a bit of preseason, but no Richmond players I don't think I'll really target, not even Tom Winch up forward. He's going to be cheap. McKirch is one I'm looking at in the back line, though. So there are a few names that will spark interest, like mid-prices, like Trent Rivers as well, potentially. And then you got players that went to different clubs, like a Brass, which I wouldn't go near particularly. But maybe those halfback flankers that have gone from like Giants to Adelaide, like a coming sort of pick, could be interesting. Matt Roberts would be interesting as well. Another preseason under his belt. There's a few smokies in each line, and I feel like you've got to at least pick one or two to get that separation early. So yeah, that's basically the back line covered. Very short and swift. It's just going to be a short video today. I did Salesman's release one on the weekend, and it's been busy, very busy. Midfielders, like I said, Bont 50-50, probably on the urge of not as hot as what I was last year for him as this year, even though his 180 scores were ridiculous and it was fun to own him. But I think a little bit of value here and there would feel a little bit better than paying up for the 700k players. But Butters, I like. Dacos, I already mentioned, it's wrong. I don't know who the other guys I really want. Maybe Brayshaw, LDU feels good. Walsh, not sure about that back again this season. Just feel like he turned it over a fair bit last year as well, and he's accumulated, but not damaging. I feel. I know that sounds a little bit harsh on Walsh's part, but Petrarca's on one on my watch list. Warner potentially, because he's playing for a contract. For that West Coast move potentially. Who knows what's going to happen? But some of these players in that sort of non-contract signing period, where they're sort of weighing up their futures, tend to have a really good year. Newcomb's one to look at as well. It would be a bit of a smoky. So would Will Day. Taranto, if he can get his body right this year, would be all right. So there's a few players in the midfield. My three, even Wardor could be a breakout. Oliver, I'm staying away from. I know a lot of people hot on him, but I'm absolutely off it. DeGoey, no thanks. He's getting older now anyway, but there's not too many below that awkward price that I really want to go near. And sort of your rookies and guns in the midfield. My 1, 2, and 3 in any random order would probably be Strong, Butters, and Dacos for my starting 3. I'm pretty hot on. And then the rest I'm not going to get influenced by anyone else bar what I watched in the practice match or the roles. Bont annoys me because of how much he went forward last year at stages, but now with some of the moves ons in that side that Bevo has, maybe plays a bit more midfield, but I feel like they also rested him there for injury and just battering his body throughout the season. So it's more of a starting pick than a bring in pick for me, I think, anyway. He doesn't really lose too much cash when I've owned him or haven't owned him, I should say. Ruck line, I feel like there's a clear 5, and then the rest is sort of like, do you want to take a punt? So my clear 5, probably Cherry 1, Gorn 2. Then if I have to rate the next 3, probably Marshall's at tier below slightly 3, English 4, because of how annoying he can score, but he normally seems to turn up anyway. English and Marshall I feel like about the same. And then I feel like just Cherry and Gorn are in the league on their own, especially Cherry. Owning him last year was fun. BC and C every week was just such a given. Like he'd just always dominate no matter what. And then the 5th one, probably not Brodie Grundy for me. If I was to go for 5th one, it'd actually be DeConning or Meek. DeConning should probably be higher. I'm going to get a lot of slack for that. DeConning should probably be 2 behind Cherry, but I'm not too sure. It wouldn't be something that wouldn't surprise me where he does lose his spot here and there. They want to play two Carlton Rucks. I've forgotten the other guy now, but Mark Pitney, look, he did play 13 games, but if DeConning can play all 22, 23, 24, whatever it is, then he's your man. But that Pitney factor, surely Pitney's done. See how we go there. But it could be your Pitney, your DeConning and Meek start up too. But for now, early days, Cherry and Gorn for me. I feel like that will be the other combination that people go for. I don't think people will be going for Wits or Nank or anything like that, really. I can't see Richmond having a better year than what they really did. Not going to win too many games anyway. I mean, we won two, probably won't win more than 5 or 6. 7 would be nice, which is high hopes, but that's so biased of me, I think. But yeah, it depends on if Lynch can actually stay in the park, and our midfielders. But not a Richmond video, so I do apologise. Anyway, forward line, not going to get all those top end guys. Jackson, I still like, is a bit of a R3 cover guy. If you've got a R3 that has 4 DPP, he's not a bad swing if Gorn or Cherry misses a week or two, which I've used in the past and I used last season. Then you've got obviously your Rankins, your Dylan Moores. Probably none of these key forwards this year. I'm not doing that Mackay and McCameron experiment anymore. Baker could be a shout. I think Reed's lost his 4 DPP. And then there's the obvious ones that you're going to hear about in everyone's forward line. Bolton's one that some Richmond fans are a fan of. But look, if he gets a full-time midfield, he's going to absolutely have a breakout. But he's just a shocking forward, like especially set shot for goal anyway. I'd prefer him in the midfield if Fremantle are going to play him, use his speed and agility. He's a very selfish player. He's not really two-way at all. He's just offensive and never really defends. So anyway, he'll probably have a good year at Freo because he seems to play well up there anyway. Dempsey could be one interesting one and be a bit of a pod. I wouldn't be surprised if Mana broke out again, played a little bit more midfield. Elijah Hollins is an interesting pick as well. McRae, of course. People will be going McRae. Scroll a little further down and there's some good options as well. Don't think we're touching Fife this year. I didn't touch him last year. Won't touch him this year again. Where's those obvious ones we're talking about, like your Caleb Daniels and stuff like that are pretty cheap. Nick Watson, no thank you. But yeah, once the picker comes out, we'll actually be able to scroll through properly instead of trying to remember who's got the forward eligible now. Bolter down back could be interesting. I think with all the forwards Richmond have recruited, he could be an absolute smoky, and you guys are going to think I'm crazy, but when he plays down back, he's actually a pretty good scorer. So it'll be interesting to see what he's priced at. And it'll be interesting to see what he averaged like in the back line as just a pure defender. No, thank you to Mansell. No, my dad picked Mansell last year at one stage of the year, which is a crazy pick. He's the kind of guy that should play SuperCoach draft, actually. Some rookies. Bauer should be a good rookie for Richmond. For sure, I think he'll get games as a third tall. And not too many others I'm really interested in that lower bracket, but just the common guys I went through with my team video the other day. I did 3 videos with a bit of a rookie guide, not anything too detailed, and then I went through some players as well in the other 2 videos. So this was the end of my season last year. Obviously, Ryan was on the field for that Houston suspension, so that killed my last score. Fisher sort of stuffed up here. Now, Caleb Daniels going to take his role, you'd think. Stewart, I'm not looking at to start next year. I think that was an injury game from memory now. McKercher, I think, can build on what he was building on last year, a few tons there. Sheasel will stay there as well. In my side, even if there's no pure midfield, I'd pick him. And then midfield, I'm not going to probably touch Tom Green this season, nor Rao. I'm not going to touch Jack Steele either. Rosie, not too sure if I'm going to touch Rosie. I don't think I will at this stage. Young, no way. But these 4, Bont, Butters, Merritt, and Strong, definitely considering those 4. Heaney, no thank you. I think he's probably just a pure mid this season. And then Zorko's down back, I believe. So is Flanders. That changes our forward line completely. Dowling, Richards, and all those other rookies probably not looking at next year. Next season, I should say. But that is a little bit of, the team picker going forward. Is I think you got to at least go with 3 or 4 pods, a minimal 2 pods that no one's sort of talking about now. When I'm talking about pods, I probably mean under 8 to 10% ownership, and even just one really good pod, like a 2% pod. And then the other way to get pods is actually rookie pods. I think rookie pods are something that we're not spoken about enough. If you can get a good rookie pod and they really make cash faster than the other ones and they score a lot better than other rookie ones, especially in your forward line, you could do some damage early on and get a bit of a gap. So, a few pods to go through, and then an even structure, sort of like, what do you do? Like a 3-5-3 structure going forward, and then obviously 2 primo rucks, or you could do a couple mid-price rucks as well. But ideally, anywhere between that minimal of 11 to 12 premiums, and then that, if you were to go that higher end of 14, where like maybe 2 are mid prices, is where you want to structure your team. But you want it to be pretty even balanced, like 3 defenders, 3 forwards, and then whatever you can afford in the midfield. But normally your basic team picker, or your round one squad around the rookies available, the ones that are best 22 and not sub risk as well. So the ones that are literally named on the team sheets and the best 18, not this bench player rubbish. I actually take a lot of consideration when I'm looking at my rookies to where they start on A and B team in the pre-seasons. What you sort of hear in the match sims. Are they dominating the 2K trial? Are they impressing on the track? Have they got a new role? Like, is it position friendly? Is a small forward now taking a half-back flank role? Or is it as a forward taking a midfield role? Something like that really piques your interest. And then the opposite to that is a intercept defender now going to play lockdown due to injury? So there's a few things to look forward to in terms of taking your preseason notes, but just be a little bit diverse and a little bit unique this season, not follow everyone's crowded picks. Obviously, the main ones where you're going to hear about that extreme value, you're going to have to jump on, because if you don't, 70% of own them, and then you anti-pod at 30%, and they're going to make money anyway, you sort of stuff your own side by trying to be too anti-pod. It's just having that right balance, and also having a team that you actually like to watch every week in and out. There's not too many teams that are like, example, like I hate watching Papley, so I'd never pick Papley. It won't leave me SuperCoach, but playing like that per se. But it's definitely fun to own players you actually like watching, and you think can actually damage SuperCoach points really well, instead of picking players you absolutely hate and get frustrated about. Like, if you don't like Matt Rao, but you think he's going to go right, but it frustrates you to watch him, there's no point getting mad in SuperCoach, because you just want to trade him every week. Then you get these people on socials going, should have traded him. Just don't own him in the first place, and you save yourself that hassle. So anyway, there's a bit of a SuperCoach rant. Did say I would release on the weekend, so ended the season just outside of that top 5K. Tried to make a charge. I was going to do a lessons learned video at the end of the season, but just needed some time off SuperCoach. But we are back. We are trying to give some advice and whatnot. So leave us a like if you haven't already. Sub to us if you're new. Now, this tipping for last year, I didn't even tip all season. As well as I'm 91 points. I don't think I'm a shocking tipper. I just forgot after round 1 to tip, and it just stayed there. So I went for all the away teams or whatever it does for you. So, yeah, purely for SuperCoach Classic. I don't do SuperCoach Fantasy or any of the other ones, just SuperCoach Classic. And I'll probably do a draft as well for the subs interested, because that is also a fun one to do. But thanks for watching. Sorry it wasn't uploaded on the weekend. I'll release this Tuesday night. So cheers for watching again. Leave a like if you haven't already. Thanks.